our home space. More than just a marketplace.
Hi there, my name is Arthur. You might have seen our first clip for our crowdfunding campaign. What can I say about it? It was a sales pitch. However, we do hope you enjoy the fact that we tried to have some fun with the irony in our tagline being more than just a marketplace, while at the same time we were obviously standing there and selling things. Well, the things we're selling are both ethical, organic, ecological, and socially responsible, and by buying from us, you help us in achieving our goal. And that's the reason why we started not just the crowdfunding campaign, but the very reason why we started our company, to be able to help the indigenous inhabitants of the Amazon to clean, safe, potable water. But there's only so much you can say in the format of a crowdfunding pitch. And so we decided to show you the background story to why we initiated this project.
The Amazon, the lungs of the world and home to more species of plants, insects, and animals than any other place on Earth. It is also the home of many indigenous people. There's only so much one can say through a crowdfunding sales pitch format. It says nothing about motives or background, for instance, and it does nothing or little to make a human connection. My name is Teteburu. It means Hawkeye in Hanshaquin, the language of the Huniquin, a tribe that lives in the Brazilian and Peruvian part of the Amazon rainforest. I am also more commonly referred to as Arthur. I was born in Sweden, and I have lived in Australia, England, Italy, and now Norway. I used to work as a furniture designer, running a brand together with two friends, backed by a Mexican corporation. We became rather well known in a very short time because of our attention to sustainable production methods and for implementing a slow approach to production to help shift the direction of the furniture industry away from the wear and tear trends of fashion. But at one point I realized that there were more chairs in the world than people, and so I changed direction in my career and started working wholeheartedly with sustainability. First, targeting other young designers, trying to find ways to make it easier for them to design environmentally friendly products. After some time, I started working with an NGO in the UK, focusing on sustainable urban development and methods for rapid city planning to achieve sustainable change in peri-urban areas. I later went on to work with social issues, working towards social cohesion in the city of Helsingborg, Sweden, using theater as a tool to achieve our goals. It was a rather satisfying job where I could see the change we made, working directly with young children and youth as well as people from all socioeconomic groups across the city. After my 4 years at the theater, we had gone from a 30% sale to over 90% in sales, and the project had not only won accolade from the main funders, Region Skåne Culture and the Swedish Arts Council, but had also received attention from the European Commission, who used the project as a best practice project for open method of communication, a way for member countries to share best practice. My job at the theater later turned into a position where I helped establish a children's and youth theater festival in Helsingborg. After 4 years in my old hometown, I was recruited to work for a socially responsible children's theater that, amongst other things, did many interesting social projects in Africa. However, during my time there, I fell ill with meningitis, or at least that was the closest to any diagnosis that I received during that time. The day I got sick, I lost my ability to speak. Only slur came out of my mouth, and I didn't understand numbers. I went home and went to bed hoping that it would be better in the morning. I woke up 3 days later with an immense pain in my head. I couldn't speak properly, I had no balance and no energy to speak of. Plus, I was in serious pain. I had gone to bed on Wednesday afternoon, and I woke up on Saturday evening. Strangely enough, the only thing I thought of the first evening was being able to go back to work on Monday. When there was no sign of improvement on Sunday, the realization that I might have been through something serious struck me. I might not become well again. Well, Monday came, and I managed to walk to the hospital, and from there on it was as if I was part of some dark theater play with endless loops. I will spare you most of the details, but I can say that it took over 4 months before I got to see a neurologist, and what she said, before I even had the time to sit down, was that there was nothing wrong with me. Well, a few months later, she called to apologize for that, but still, the only help I had gotten in over a year was just nose spray, because they said that maybe the pressure I felt in the left side of my head could be because of a clogged left sinus. When I mentioned that the entire left side of my body was in pain, I was told to focus on one thing at a time. And so I quickly realized I had to try to get better by myself. I had no energy to speak of during that time, and I could only be on my legs for about 3 to 5 hours per day, depending on how I felt that day. Words disappeared from my vocabulary, and my organizing side was sort of gone, and so was my old sense of balance and a lot of other things that I had taken for granted. I was, however, able to paint better than I had previously, so it wasn't all bad. It was kind of difficult for me, who in a sense valued myself based on my achievements, to come to terms with the fact that I was not able to carry out even basic tasks anymore. I had always been glad that I had been able to accomplish many different things in life, and that I had had the opportunity to travel the world from a young age. But now, I was a person who was in more or less constant pain, and it kind of started defining me. It's difficult to explain what pain can do to your health and state of mind when it just won't go away. But I wouldn't give up. I was just 33 years old, and I was not ready to just sit around and wait for more tests like the doctors proposed. I found that meditation in nature helped me, so I went to the forest in Sweden for 10 days to meditate in silence, connecting with nature to heal. It helped me improve a lot, and my family immediately noticed the improvement when I got home and thought I was well again. I was, however, far from where I once had been, but I was thrilled that there were things that I could do to get better, and so a few months later I found myself on a 10-day Vipassana retreat. It's a form of silent meditation where you observe bodily sensations and detach from them by viewing them objectively. This too helped me handle the pain I felt every day. Still, some nights the pain was so intense that I simply couldn't fall asleep. By this time I had lost my job, and I was worrying that I might never become well again. I have had relatives with multiple sclerosis, and so the possibility of me never getting better, but in fact getting worse, was constantly there in my mind as well. Something that I eventually had to find a way to cope with. However, in my search of getting better, after having been met by nonchalance from my doctors, I met someone through a friend. My friend was traveling with a shaman from the Amazon by the name of Isha. He was out spreading awareness about his people and the difficulties they faced in the Amazon in a search for a way forward for the people of his village and for his tribe in general. I spoke to him for a while, and he told me he could help me get well, and invited me to come to his village in the Amazon. After having talked to him over the course of 3 days, there was no doubt in my mind that this humble man was speaking from his heart, and so some months later I found myself on the way to his village. His village was in indigenous land, so to be able to enter, I had to go through a baptism ceremony that lasted for 4 days. It was intense, but after that, not only did I get my Huniquin name, I was now considered one of them and allowed to travel freely in their territory. Whilst there, I was carrying my life straw with me to allow me to drink water from the rivers. This is as deep into the jungle as you can get, so there's no infrastructure there to speak of. The rivers are the roads and also the only source of water for these people. Isha showed me the vast treasures of plant medicines that he has learnt about since he was 3 years old. It's highly unusual that a shaman becomes selected for his vocation at such a young age, but several of the shamans back then had seen what he would become, and so they started the unusual task of transferring all their knowledge to him from such an early age. Isha recommended a diet for me that I held for a month. Besides me not being allowed to eat anything sweet or salty or no meat or fish, I also had to abstain from drinking water. Now, that can be rather tough in the high temperatures of the Amazon rainforest. He also showed me plant and animal medicines that they had and knew about while he attended to me during this time. Just shortly after I started my diet, something amazing happened. About 1 year after I had first fallen ill, after just a short time there in the Amazon under Isha's care and guidance, I had my first pain-free day. Not only was I free of pain, I had regained the physical and mental strength I once had taken for granted. So here I was, finally feeling like myself again, witnessing the lives of the Hunniquin tribe from within and hearing about their challenges. The Hunniquin are carriers of ancient knowledge that only recently has started to make its entry into Western society, but with major impact on our quality of life as a result, with about 25% of our medicines having their origins in the rainforest. At the same time, Western society and its needs account for rainforest destruction to such a magnitude that it kills about 137 plant, animal, and insect species every day. Most shamans of the Amazon, those who carry the accumulated wisdom of thousands of years, are over 70 years old and don't have apprentices. This means that their vast knowledge is slipping out of human consciousness as their way of life gives way to Western values, which in the end values the Amazon based on timber and mining prices. 500 years ago, there were about 10 million people living in the Amazon. Today, their numbers have been decimated to about 700,000. There are many factors to why the population declined. Disease brought from the outside, the rubber industry, mining, logging, and killing in the name of business, to mention just a few. It probably all boils down to old colonialist smash-and-grab mentality. The rainforest used to cover 14% of the world's surface, but is now down to less than 6%. A trend which simply isn't sustainable in a world with rising CO2 levels, as this is the place that turns CO2 back into oxygen. The Hunniquin used to live deep into the forests, and some of them still do, but many were brought out by the rubber industry and subjected to all sorts of cruelties, leaving them almost without any connection to their ancestral lines and ways of life. They have, however, begun reconstructing their community and have started to look for ways to continue existing in this modern world. It might be hard to imagine, but as little as 3 to 4 generations back, these people had no idea about the outside world, and now they're trying to find a place in this new world that they are part of. You can only imagine what it means to be a people who discovers that there's a vast global civilization just outside your doorstep. And just behind them, in the other direction, there still lives uncontacted tribes that they sometimes have encounters with. The rainy season was approaching, and I was informed that 9 children in this village alone had died during the past rainy season. I had my life straw, but what did they have? The rivers? During the rainy season, the entire forest is completely washed over with rain for weeks on end, bringing with it all sorts of debris, feces, dead animals, bacteria, and parasites into the rivers. I reasoned that it might be an alternative to harvest rainwater before it got in contact with the rivers. And so, back to my normal self, I started designing a rainwater harvesting module that I saw could be done with local materials and implemented on every house, a bamboo rain gutter. Working conditions were not optimal, so I decided to make a workbench to quicken my work, as my time there was running out. I promised myself that I would be back to complete my project, that of helping to make sure that they have access to clean water, now and for future generations. I quickly realized that they could easily have everything they need to be self-sufficient, with only some minor help from the outside. But there is no economic model in place for them to be able to buy equipment to make solar-powered water wells, or to buy solar panels, batteries, or anything else needed to become self-sufficient and connected, unless something has changed. The good thing was, I figured, we could find that model together with them. If we are able to help at least one community to become self-reliant, we would be able to make a huge impact. If the money of that community didn't have to go to fuel and food grown with pesticides in remote places, they would be able to direct that money to a nearby community so that they too would be able to become self-reliant. If they were allowed to reach out to a greater audience with their knowledge, their stories and craft, they would be able to make a living and enrich the world with their knowledge and culture. So in the forest, I did not only think of what I could do with my own 2 hands, but what other people like me could contribute with, in order to make sure that the world will be able to take part of the vast knowledge of the people of the forest. And so I started a company, Our Home Space, where the money we earn goes towards helping the Hunniquin achieve their goals of a thriving community. The model is based on us, the consumers, consuming consciously. Donations are one thing, but I wanted to create something that had the potential to work within the systems already in place, where people could carry on doing what they do, buying things, with just a minor change in where they buy from. And since a lot of people still buy clothes, I reasoned that if we could offer that and at the same time make sure that our clothes were ethical, fair trade and organic, then we would be helping the earth twice in one go by making sure that we didn't pollute or make people work under unfair conditions. And not only do our products not create a negative impact on the earth or the people making them, 70% of the profits from our first crowdfunding campaign goes towards buying LifeStraw family water purification units so that we can hand them out at a yearly festival where there will be attendance from many remote villages. This will enable the Honey Quinn to distribute the purification units to families with young children. This means that from day one when we get back to the Amazon, we will be able to help people to stay alive with your help. We will also be helping with funding for a permaculture initiative which aims at helping this previously semi-nomadic people to a sustainable and worthy existence, now and in the future. We will be looking at many different solutions that can be implemented in their lands, because in the race for a self-sustaining community, it's not enough with one solution for clean water, one solution for food, for energy, or for making a living. It's about finding an abundance of versatile solutions and making sure that the ones that work are shared. Also, we will be buying goods from the women of the villages who are engaged in a competence exchange initiative, where they learn from each other how to best produce their craft. These pieces are offered as perks in our crowdfunding campaign as well, and if you choose their craft as a perk, then you know that even more support will go to the women of the tribe, as the initiative also looks at ways for fair income distribution. So if you think you might buy a t-shirt or a pair of trousers the next 6 months, why not make a conscious decision and buy it from us? If you're thinking of giving someone a gift this Christmas, why not make it a double gift and give life as well? It is of course not only possible to donate for our cause, it is also welcome, as this too will enable us to reach out to the Honey Quinn this season. And even if we don't reach our crowdfunding target this time around, we will continue working towards being able to help the Honey Quinn with the transformation that they are looking for. And just to finish off this clip, here's a shot of me bringing a friend who was also on a diet with me at the same time on a bamboo hunt in my quest towards being able to help with what I was able to do then and there on site with what I had around me. This is shortly after I started feeling better, but as you can see, my face is still sort of hanging on the left side there, something that luckily I don't experience very often anymore thanks to Isha and the Honey Quinn. Who knows what the knowledge they possess will mean for other people in the future. All I can say is that they helped me turn my life back on track again, and so there was no way that I could just go there and ignore their request for aid. And even if I had seemingly nothing with me by the time I got there, I had myself, and that's not a bad starting point, because from that point there are many things I can do, where reaching out to you is just one of those things that I can do on behalf of the Honey Quinn. And no, I'm not a documentary maker, nor am I a salesman. And it is not something that I'm striving for either. This is simply me being me, giving a damn and doing my best with what I have in order to be able to help someone who is more restricted than I am. Because the only thing more frightening than not succeeding with our goals is not even trying. So please help spread our campaign so that we together will be able to help the Honey Quinn to a life where water isn't the biggest cause of death, and so that we together can secure their knowledge and way of life for future generations.